What's up, everybody? Welcome back in. We are getting back into the Karen Reed trial. We were waiting for this cross-examination at the end of the day yesterday. We got it today. And we'll see if there were some interesting parts that maybe haven't gone as smoothly or as great as some other cross-examinations have gone for Karen Reed's defense team and why. We're going to look at some pictures. We're going to discuss some friendships. We're going to discuss cover-up potentially. And of course, we'll discuss what Karen Reed said the night all this happened. So let's jump into it. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to our page if you haven't already. So the state finished their direct examination today, just confirming a lot of similarities to what we've already heard from a lot of the other evidence, and the defense jumped into their cross. And he was trying to get the positioning of where everybody was standing when Karen Reed says what she said, at least according to this witness. He shows her a picture. There's some discussion about exhibits. And then we get into where everybody was standing and what was actually said that night that this witness heard.
Ms. McLaughlin, this is the time or the scene that you've told us about when you heard the statement that you've attributed to my client, correct?
Sorry, say that again?
Sure. This is a moment in time, captures a moment in time when you're standing there. To your right is Karen Reed, which you've described. To your left is a civilian female, which you've described. And across from you is an officer, which you've also described.
Yes.
So this would be the time or close in time to the time that you heard the statement that you attribute to Ms. Reed, correct?
Yes.
The first time you ever made that official report, or an official report to law enforcement regarding that statement was January 30th, 2022, correct?
Well, yes and no. The statement was made in front of the police officer, so that would technically be the first time that statement was made to a police officer in my presence. And then, yes, I testified to it on January 30th, as you said.
You said it on January 30th. You weren't testifying under oath, correct?
Okay. Said it.
Okay.
Yes.
My question was really, and I appreciate you clarifying, my question was really the first time you actually told this statement to any law enforcement officer was on January 30th.
Yes.
Okay, we can take that down.
So he's trying to lock in first time she ever said it, January 30th, which is, I think, only a day later when she told it to Proctor. So not the same impeachment or cutting credibility that we've had with some of the other witnesses. So again, not off to quite as strong of a foot. I want to hear from you guys. You guys have thought, the defense team can do no wrong basically at this point. And I agree they've done a very incredibly good job with all these witnesses, all these inconsistencies, but some witnesses just have been more consistent. So there's not as much to pick apart. And that might be what we're seeing here, but maybe you have a different perception than me. She said it the next day, and they're going to get into where she heard it. And he does end up impeaching some inconsistencies. We'll get to it, see if it's as big of a deal as some of the other ones. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments.
That was when you met with Trooper Michael Proctor, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, that was very close in time to the event. It was the next day. Is that right?
Yes.
The events were close.
The 29th. Yeah. So it would be the next day.
Right. 29th, 30th.
Yeah.
Okay. The events were fresh in your mind at that time?
Yes.
You obviously knew about the importance of that interview. You knew that it dealt with a police officer who had passed.
I knew it was important to talk to the police about what I heard.
And you wanted to be accurate.
Yes.
You wanted to be as detailed as you possibly could.
Yes.
And you understand that memories, obviously, they get a little worse with time, not better with time, right?
Sure.
The closer in time you are to the event, the fresher your memory is going to be about the details of that event. You would agree with that, right?
Sure.
You told Trooper Proctor the day after the event, on January 30th, that the statement that you attribute to my client was actually made to the female, not to you in response to your questioning. That's what you told Trooper Proctor, correct?
I don't have those notes in front of me, so I don't know that I can tell you that that's correct, but the statement was made in response to my question. However, the Miss Reed was looking at the civilian woman as she said that.
Does it refresh your recollection?
So that's the big inconsistency here. That's the big impeachment with this witness is instead of saying she said it to me, she said it to the other female civilian. But she tries to kind of correct it, saying it was in response to my question, but she was looking at the female civilian. Miss Reed was kind of moving all around. And so this is part of the big impeachment. He's going to show her the recorded statement that he has written down for what she said to Trooper Proctor. And they're going to get into more about this inconsistency. But again, not as inconsistent as some of the other witnesses that we've heard from, in my opinion.
That
Don't read what you think.
Ma'am,
Sure.
your recollection about what you told Trooper Proctor on January 30th.
Yes.
And you told Trooper Proctor,
No,
quote,
let her.
in terms
If she, hold on. I'll see you inside.
anyway, correct?
Okay.
that yes?
Yes, if you're saying that's in quotation.
Hold on, I'm going to back.
May I interrupt?
Yes.
In fact, what you told Trooper Proctor was, quote, Karen then turned to her friend and stated, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. End quote. Correct?
Okay.
Is that yes?
Yes, if you're saying that's in quotation marks in the in that, then yes.
That's what's in the report?
Okay.
And you don't have to agree with me. I'm asking yes or no questions. It's not okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
He's like, okay, doesn't help me. I'm not saying things. What I say is not evidence. Can you say yes or no?
So in fact, what you told Trooper Proctor was that Karen Reed looked at the female to your left and said 4 times, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Correct?
Yes.
And have you since learned that the name or identity of the female that was standing to your left?
No.
You're aware that the female that was standing to your left reported the exact same statement?
No.
Are you aware that the female standing to your left reported that exact same statement as, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Did I hit him?
No, I'm not aware of that.
So the female that she's saying, Karen Reed said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, according to this lawyer, which again, it's not in evidence yet, but he thinks that female witness is going to say, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Things like that, not I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, which is, another inconsistency that may be coming, but not inconsistent about what this witness has told other people in the past, which we've already had a lot of that from some of the other witnesses, which has been very strong for the defense.
You then went back to the ambulance after you heard that statement that you believed you heard my client's statement.
Yes.
You opened the ambulance door, correct?
Yes.
That was the back door,
The side door.
the side door. And there were 2 firefighter paramedics in that ambulance at the time, correct?
I believe there were more than 2 at that time.
2 of them included firefighter Nuttall and firefighter Flamani.
Yes.
And at that point, you told them what you believed you had just heard.
So I went into the back of the ambulance. I said, this is his name. This is his date of birth. She says he doesn't have any medical history or allergies, doesn't take daily medications. And then I said, she's saying I hit him. And firefighter Nuttall motioned to his face and said something.
Objection, Your Honor.
Ask another question.
So the answer to my question is yes.
So did anybody catch what happened there? He asks a question. She goes answering. She keeps talking. And he objects in the middle of his question and answer. And people on YouTube and in the Twitter sphere have crushed lawyers for doing this in the past and other trials that we've watched, objecting to the answer to a question that you asked, which is the danger of being a lawyer. But it happens. It happens to good lawyers. It happens to bad lawyers. It happens sometimes when witnesses are pushing the line or trying to press or trying to explain their answers in a way that helps their side. Sometimes you have to object because they're not answering your questions. That's what he did here. I backed it up a little bit just so we could hear it confirmed. He is objecting to an answer to his own question. And just to show it happens. It happens.
Saying I hit him. And firefighter Nuttall motioned to his face and said something.
Objection, Your Honor.
Ask another question.
So the answer to my question is yes. You told in front of Flamati and Nuttall the phrase I hit him.
Yes.
You can write that in any report.
I don't write a report in this scenario of my job.
Let her finish the answer, please.
So there are 2 people that will write reports in my department on a call, one being the lead paramedic and the other being the officer who's on scene. So those are the people that write reports, and I was neither of those, so I did not write that in a report. That's correct.
So let me ask the question again. You didn't write it in any report?
No.
You didn't write it in any notes?
No.
You didn't document that statement in any way whatsoever, correct?
Other than my interview with Proctor and my subsequent testimony.
You didn't document that statement in any way yourself, did you?
No.
Since January 30th, in that conversation we just talked about with Trooper Proctor, your statement has evolved. Is that right?
I don't know how to answer that.
You testified yesterday.
He's like, in the statement you made to Proctor, it has evolved, meaning it has changed. Instead of just telling the other lady it's in response to your question.
Something quite different.
Not quite different.
And
I
now
don't know how to
they
answer that.
kind of quibble about semantics, and she really pushes back. But this is probably the best part of the cross for the defense. One of the best part of the cross for the defense, how he finishes this kind of firefight back and forth and what he eventually gets her to admit at the end.
That.
You testified yesterday something quite different
Not quite different.
than what you testified, I'm sorry, what you stated to Trooper Proctor.
Respectfully, I think my testimony has been pretty consistent.
You testified to something yesterday quite different in context than what you told Trooper Proctor. Isn't that right?
I don't know that that's right.
Well, you told Trooper Proctor, Karen Reed looked at a female standing to your left, said, hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Right?
Yes.
Yesterday, you told these jurors that Karen Reed said, I hit him. And an officer said, "You what?" And she repeated, "I hit him." And the officer immediately turned and went to find another sergeant. Is that right or no? Yes or no?
No, there was more to that testimony.
That's not what you said yesterday?
I think I said more than.
I think that is what she said yesterday. And so that is a difference. It's a minor difference at who she said it to, female or to the officer. And maybe it'll be a huge point in the future. And this was actually a huge home run for the defense. It didn't feel that way through this cross, but we're about to get to the best part of cross, in my opinion, where he gets her to admit that, yes, her story has changed. She was sticking to her guns that it was consistent. That's probably what I would have done. Or maybe said it's semantics or something like that, but you got to be careful because the lawyer can be like, oh, it's not semantics, it's very important, and then prove later why it's very important. But she ends up admitting that her story has in fact changed since yesterday. Just never a good thing if you're on the stand over 2 days.
That than what you just repeated.
Is what I said consistent with what you said yesterday? There's a lot of things that you said. More of them. I'm asking, is that the sum and substance of what you told these jurors yesterday?
Yes.
So you would agree that from that time till yesterday, your story has evolved. It's changed.
Would I agree with that? I don't know that I agree with that.
You think the story that you told Trooper Proctor is exactly the same?
I understand what you're saying. So I understand what you're saying.
So has your story evolved?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
That's big. Keeps pushing. She was sticking to her guns at first, but eventually he gets her to say, actually, I know what you're saying. Yes, I guess it has evolved. I agree with you. That's big. That's big. And that's really good with a tough witness, not the witness you're going to get the best info or best information out of as the defense, but he did a really good job of continuing to push there and getting her to agree.
This involves who's Caitlin Albert?
I went to high school with somebody named Caitlin Albert.
Now is where it gets weird. Who's Caitlin Albert? I went to high school with someone named Caitlin Albert. Like, she knows for sure that the same Caitlin Albert she went to high school is somehow involved in this case, or the Albert family is involved in this case, even in a tangential way or a direct way, depending on who you ask. And for her to just say, like, she's somebody I went to high school with, as if you could just ask any question about any random person you went to high school with, is not a good start, because it definitely seems like she's immediately trying to distance herself from Caitlin Albert in this situation, which I think if she would have answered it a different way, it wouldn't have been suspicious at all. Caitlin Albert, I went to high school with her. Okay, how's she involved in this case? So her family member, I think, is involved with this house. Are you friends with her? No, not really friends with her. I knew she was, went to high school. I wasn't friends with everybody I went to high school. Could have answered it like that, but instead, really trying to distance her, so much so that if you're trying to argue a cover-up, this is what it would sound like on the stand if somebody was trying to cover it up. And sometimes you push too hard when you get nervous or feel like you're backed into a corner, even if you've done nothing wrong, and it can seem like it's got a negative connotation, even if it doesn't. So I don't know if it does. I don't know if there's a cover-up. I just think the defense got what they wanted out of this exchange. And we're going to continue to watch and talk about it.
Somebody named Caitlin Albert.
I went to high school with somebody named Caitlin Albert.
So do you know Caitlin Albert?
I do.
Friends with Caitlin Albert?
I would say more acquaintances, not close friends.
How do you describe acquaintance?
I would say that we have mutual friends, so we might see each other occasionally because of mutual friends, but we don't have a one-on-one friendship or hang out regularly.
Who's her dad?
I don't know.
Objections. Do you know who her family is?
Objection.
So they object. They end up doing a proffer, okay, where they're outside the presence of the jury. The defense shows her a bunch of pictures, gets her to admit basically she goes on daycations, like a one-day vacation to the beach with her and a bunch of other friends, and arm around each other, drinking each other, Facebook friends or social media friends. She tries to push back, and the state gets up and asks her, well, I have 500 friends on social media. Only 10 of them are really close friends. Judge doesn't let the pictures come in, but she's going to allow the defense attorneys to ask some of the questions. So what we're going to play and listen to now is what the defense attorneys were actually allowed to ask, as opposed to a lot more information that came out of the proffer, including the pictures, which did not come in front of the jury. So that's what we're going to jump to here. This is the whole proffer. Then we go on break again, and we come back, And here's the real thing.
It's all for you to see in here. So sometimes we spend a little time now.
All that.
Yes.
Ms. McLaughlin, thank you for your patience. When we last left off, I was asking you about your relationship with Caitlin Albert. You recall that?
Yes.
I want to ask you a few more questions about that. You and Caitlin Albert have known each other for how long?
Since high school.
Which is, give me a span of time.
So probably about 10 years.
You have traveled with Caitlin Albert and friends. When I say traveled, I don't mean to exotic locations. I mean day trips, etc.
Yes.
You have.
And they do this. It's almost like acting at this point because they already know all these questions because they just did it on the proffer. But basically what he's trying to do is show the connection between her and Caitlin Albert, regardless of what she says. And so the jury starts saying, let's see how many people are actually connected with the Albert family. And the Commonwealth has brought this up with other witnesses that you don't know these people, right? You don't know that person. You have no history with them. So now should we think differently about witnesses that do? And we'll wait till their redirect because I actually thought it was a good redirect here by the Commonwealth as well.
You have a group of mutual friends together, correct?
We have mutual friends. Correct.
Those mutual friends have gone on day trips with you and Caitlin Albert involved
Correct.
on more than one occasion, as a matter of fact.
Correct.
On many occasions, matter of fact.
I don't know.
More than 5?
I don't know.
More than 10?
I don't know.
You've seen photographs of you with Caitlin.
By the way, she doesn't recall way too many things about Caitlin Albert. When they were on the proffer, it's like, I don't know when I was on this trip. I don't know where we went. I don't know what that bathing suit is. I don't recognize that bathing suit. I have no idea when this picture was taken. I don't know if I've seen it before on social media. It's like in the last 10 years, you don't remember like a bunch of these outfits that you were wearing or bathing suits that you bought or trips that you went on to the beach with a group of friends. Like, I feel like you'd have some recollection or memory of where, when, who, how you got there, things like that. But she just doesn't remember anything when it comes to her even, acquaintance relationship with Caitlin Albert.
Caitlin Albert.
But I also get like you go to a big high school, doesn't mean you know everybody and you're friends with everybody either. But they are like with each other, standing next to each other in pictures and stuff. So I don't know. It's a little interesting.
On some of these day trips, correct?
Yes.
You've seen at least 3 of those photographs.
Yes.
You're friends with Caitlin Albert on social media?
Yes.
Other than the 3 photographs that you've seen, we just talked about, there have been other events that you've been at with Caitlin Albert that weren't necessarily photographed, but we don't have those photographs, correct?
Probably.
You know that Caitlin Albert is the same Caitlin Albert as the daughter of Brian and Nicole Albert, as you sit here.
Yes. As I sit here today. Yes.
And you know that Caitlin Albert also has siblings, Brian Albert Jr., correct?
As I sit here today. Yes, I know that.
And you also know, as you sit here today, that 34 Fairview was, at the time of January 29th, 2022, the Albert home, correct?
I know that as of today.
You indicated, let me rephrase that. When you showed up at 34 Fairview that morning, did you recognize that address or recognize the home as being that of Caitlin Albert's?
No.
You have since learned that that was Caitlin Albert's home.
I know that now.
And you gave your original statement to Trooper Proctor the next day.
Yes.
And from that day to this day, or let's take yesterday, from that day to yesterday, you learned that 34 Fairview was the Canton Albert family home, correct?
You're asking if I know from.
Between those 2 days.
Yes.
Between the time you spoke with
Yes.
Proctor in this report. So yesterday when you testified, you now know that that's the Albert home.
Yes.
And you also indicated that between that report that you gave to Trooper Proctor, that statement that you gave to Trooper Proctor, and yesterday's testimony, your statement has evolved. You've already admitted that, correct?
I don't think I agreed with you on that.
I wish he wouldn't have asked that question because I think he got a really good answer before.
It's changed. It's different.
I've always testified to I feel as though my testimony has been consistent.
I appreciate how you might feel. I'm just interested in the actual facts. You didn't tell Trooper Proctor anything about this officer questioning my client. Correct?
Objection. So I'm going to see counsel at sidebar because I think this morphed into a different.
You agree with McLaughlin that the statement that you gave to Trooper Proctor is not the same as the statement that you gave to these jurors yesterday. Right?
Yes.
I just want to know.
Well, ended up getting her to again agree something changed.
Yes.
I personally liked how it ended the last time.
He was coordinated by another officer. To put you to record, you know him to be a police officer.
So I want to jump to redirect because I actually thought the redirect was good here too. And they hit a lot of the points too. help distance it in a more normal way from Caitlin Albert?
Canton PD,
No,
you know him to be the brother of Brian Albert.
no.
The objection sustained.
That's all I have. Your Honor.
Okay.
High school with Caitlin Allen, correct?
Yes.
And could you describe the nature of your relationship, if any, with Caitlin?
I would describe it as we're not close friends. I would say we're more acquaintances. We have mutual friends. I don't have a one-on-one relationship with her.
And you were asking questions about social media, correct?
Yes.
And if you could, or if you could guesstimate about how many friends, and I'm sort of throwing air quotes in there, how many friends on social media would you have?
I don't know, probably 500.
And of those probably 500 friends on social media, how many of those are actual friends that you talk to, interact with beyond social media?
Much less than that.
So on her proffer, she said 10. And I was like, 10? Like, I mean, I get it. A lot less friends. It's not your best friends, but definitely have more than 10 friends I talk to and interact with and go on day trips with than 10 out of 500 plus on social media. But she just said a lot less, which I think is a better answer. The proffer was not in front of the jury, so it doesn't matter. It's not coming in. It's not evidence.
Now, prior to, let me ask you this, as far as, would you say that you saw Caitlin Albert more so when you were in high school or more so since you have graduated from high school?
I would say probably more in high school because we were there every day. So
And about what year or so was it that you graduated from high school?
2014.
And as far as any sort of photographs that were referenced to you, have you seen those photographs?
Here?
Yes.
Here today, I saw them.
Do you have any idea where or when those photographs were taken?
I don't remember.
And of those photographs, it's not just you and Caitlin Albert in a photograph, is that correct?
Correct.
So a large group of people, is that correct?
Correct.
So he kind of minimizes the photographs a little bit, which I think was effective. A lot of people in the photographs, you know, you're there, you know, a lot of people, it's a big group of friends.
When you were asked about sort of these day trips, they were sort of trips specifically on a day to a beach, it looks like, correct?
Correct.
And to a beach with a larger group of people, is that correct?
Correct.
And with reference to Caitlin Albert specifically, have you ever socialized with her in any setting beyond a setting that contained a large group of people?
No.
Now, with respect to, you say high school, you graduated from Canton High School, correct?
Correct.
And you grew up in Canton, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you know Caitlin Albert before you attended Canton High School?
No, that's probably when we first really interacted with high school.
And essentially, you live within the town, you work within the town that you grew up, correct?
Correct.
And is that abnormal from a civil service perspective?
No, from a civil service perspective, you're given more points for residency. So it's actually, I would say, preferred, or you're placed higher on the list if you have residency in that town.
So if you think about it, it's not abnormal for firefighters, cops, you know, civil servants to be from the town where they're working. And I've got a bunch of friends that are cops and firefighters, and some who went to high school together, middle school, whatever. They've shown up to people's houses that they know before. So it's not automatically a bad thing, which is why I wouldn't have distanced myself from the Caitlin Albert stuff in the first place if I was her. It's like, I've shown up to some of my good friends' houses before, or my parents' friends, or people that were at my wedding, or that, you know, were at my bar mitzvah or whatever. You know, it's like, why does this have to be such a weird thing that you responded to her house? And you had consistent testimony the whole way through. If they want to say it's a cover up, make them prove it's a cover up. Don't make it seem shady in your answers. That's kind of one of my weird feelings about this case is like, I have like one of my best friends is a firefighter, and he's told me all the time about how he shows up to people's houses that he knows. I have another friend's a firefighter that showed up to a family member of his houses that passed, and he was one of the firefighter paramedics that showed up. And so, I mean, stuff like that happens. Yes, there's situations you conflict off, but if you're on duty and there's an emergency, you go and you help and you do your job. So it is pretty, pretty interesting that they want to get as far away from this because they're being accused of cover up, when I think it's pretty much not that big of a deal, or it could have not been that much big. It could have not been that big of a deal, but for what it turned into.
So it's actually preferred and more common than uncommon as far as growing up in a town and then working in that same town in a civil service position like a firefighter.
Yes.
Now, during the course of the time that you've been on the Canton Fire Department, have you received calls to residencies or other places or even patients that you either knew or were familiar with?
Yes.
Would that be a reason for you to not go on a call?
No.
And you have an obligation, wouldn't you say, to respond to a call when a call is made and you're on duty in that station, correct?
Yes.
The objection sustained. Ask the question differently.
As far as when you're on duty as a firefighter at a particular station house, you get a call. What, if any, choice do you have to respond to any particular call?
I don't have a choice. I just have to respond to the call.
And then prior to that date of January 29th, had you ever been over through socialization or otherwise Caitlin Albert's house?
Not that I ever remember.
Has she ever been over your house?
No,
And again, had you ever socialized with her outside of a large group of people?
no,
When you responded on that morning, just after 6 a.m., the house of 34 Fairview Road, did you know who lived there?
no,
During the time since January 29th of 2022, have you ever spoken to Caitlin Albert about what happened that morning in front of 34 Fairview Road?
no.
Now, you were asked some questions on cross-examination about knowing sort of Caitlin Albert's parents' names or siblings' names or things of that, correct?
Right.
And prior to January 29th, you didn't know any of those names, is that correct?
No.
You learned of them subsequently, is that correct?
Yes.
I thought that was a pretty good redirect. Then there was a short recross about, how many friends on social media, the defense gives them say, how many friends on social media do you go out drinking with? Do you go to the beach with? Do you go on vacation with? Or a staycation or daycation or whatever he's calling it. And she's like, I don't know. But it's a good point. It's like, well, if you only have 10 friends, which I know she didn't say that, but a lot less, it's like, you don't go to the beach with 500 people. You don't take a picture with your arms around each other, with a beer in your hand with 500 people. So you guys are at least somewhat of a friend. And again, the only reason this is weird is because she's saying no to me. But I want to know what your guys' feeling is. If you were on the jury, what would you think about her relationship with Caitlin Albert? Let me know that in the comments. What would you think about her relationship? Because I'm interested. It matters in the context of they're saying it's a cover-up because everybody's helping the Albert family and, cops protecting cops or whatever. But in normal circumstances, I don't think this would be a big deal at all. So I want to know what you guys think about all that. And then to finish the video, I thought it was cool because we don't always get this in a case. We get the judge giving an explanation about how exactly the jury view is going to go. Let me see, where is it? And then we'll hear the things the lawyers point out.
All right, jurors, we are getting ready to go for our view. So we're about to visit a place which you'll be.
This is cool because we don't always get the same explanation. It's always a little bit different when the jury does a view. And this one's actually just an interesting procedure that they do in letting the lawyers kind of point stuff out to you. They're not allowed to talk to you while you're there, but just kind of cool to listen to the judge explain it, see what the lawyers say, and then we'll end the video.
Hearing about some more, you've heard about, you've seen photographs of, and in court terminology, we call this the view. The purpose of the view is to help you better to understand the evidence, which you'll hear during the trial, and to help you appreciate the location and its surroundings. The view that you will take is a part of this case. The observations that you make while on the view may be used and considered in your deliberations in reaching a verdict. The place that we're going to go, you've seen photos of, you've heard it, it's 34 Fairview Road. The lawyers and I will accompany you on the bus. The attorneys may point out to you the arrangement of the scene and items that they want you to pay special note of, but otherwise they cannot discuss anything in this case in regard to this case, and they can't talk to you. All right, they'll be able to do an opening here, and they'll be able to point these things out. While you're on the view, it's very important that you can't take notes, and you certainly can't use your phones and take photographs. All right, it's really just for you to see. You cannot conduct any independent investigation while we're there, or at any time during the trial, as you've been told. You're not to return to the scene or ask anyone else to do it for you until the case is over. So this is your opportunity to take a look when we go. What you are to do in the view may be best summarized in two very familiar words, which is stop and look. Okay. Your responsibility is to see the place, to observe it carefully, and to remember what you see. So during your trip to and from the place that we're going to view, you're not to discuss this case or anything about it among yourselves or with anyone, and you are not to permit anyone to talk with you about the case. You'll be under the supervision of our great court officers at all times, and you'll remain together until you return to court, unless the court officers direct you otherwise. And just so that you know, because some of this came up during our jury selection process, spectators, if there are any, and all members of the press have been ordered to stay 100 yards away from you. All right, so you can go and you can look and take your time looking without worrying about any interference from anyone. All right, so with that, Mr. Clerk, could you swear in, please, the court officer?
Court officers, raise your right hands, please. Do you solemnly swear you will take this jury upon the premises in question for the defendant?
A short view opening?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So ladies and gentlemen,
Now here are the statements from the lawyers. A little opening before the jury view. Not all jurisdictions have this. So I thought it was kind of cool to watch, and that the lawyers get to kind of tell them what they want them to look at and focus on while they go view the scene.
as Her Honor just described, we're about to go to a place. When we arrive there, and at any point in time when we're there, this is not a point where we can have any sort of conversation or back and forth. So all I'm going to be asking you to do is just take note of certain locations and certain items as you see. Again, as with anything in this case, this is as you find it, as you observe. Okay. So first, I'm going to ask you to sort of, when we arrive in the general area, as far as taking note of sort of street names when you're coming into, when you're exiting from this particular area. When we arrive at a specific location, I'm going to ask you to take note of certain things about the roadway. Okay. Certainly any abutments to the roadway, any residences that you observe, the distances between the roadway, and any landmarks or any items that you observe on that property, specifically a driveway, specifically a front door, any other sort of items of interest within the front lawn area of that home. I'm also going to ask you to take note of the roadway itself, sort of the width of that roadway, whether or not you find any sort of lanes separating within that roadway, and then the individual width of some of those lanes as well. Lastly, there is also going to be a vehicle there as well. I'm going to ask you to take note of certain things with respect to that vehicle, okay? With respect to the size, with respect to the height, with respect to anything that you observe, specifically from the front, the side, the back, all of the exterior of that vehicle, and then also some of the interior of that vehicle. And specifically, I'm going to ask you to take note of sort of the center console in the front driver's compartment of that vehicle, and anything that you observe in that location as well. And that is all I'm asking you to do on this case, and I thank you again for your time and attention.
All right.
So he's not telling them what they're going to see. He's not saying this is what you're going to see and this is what I want you to do with what you see. He's just pointing out things to look here, look here, look here, look here, and then do with that what you will, and applying it to the facts and the law in this case and making your decision.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
The opportunity to introduce myself. And thank you for your service and thank you for your time and commitment to this. I'm going to echo a lot of what Mr. Lally just said. There's nothing magical about this other than it gives you perspective. It's an opportunity to introduce you in three-dimensional form to stuff that you've been seeing in two-dimensional form. Photographs, some of the testimony, diagrams that you might see.
So I'm sorry, we're really pointed on what you can say.
What we're going to ask you to do is take special note of the relationships of physical items out of the scene. Much as Mr. Lally just indicated, there are going to be physical things out of the scene. What about a flagpole, a fire hydrant, a house? We're going to ask you to take special note of where those are in relation to other things physically at the scene. That will hopefully, with the court's instruction, give you some assistance in putting together the testimony that you think is relevant, the documents that you think are relevant. Again, to echo what Mr. Lally said, we're going to ask you the roadway, the vehicle, the house, the physical items at the home, and the relationship between and among all of those things to each other. Hopefully, that will give you a very good understanding of what we're dealing with, especially with the exhibits. Thank you.
All right. So folks,
It just makes some closing argument. It's more like an opening statement. It's even less. You got to be very careful about what you say. They're not allowed to argue. Look at how close the door is to that. And anybody walking out of that door would have had to see the body. They've already kind of made those arguments in some of the cross-exam questions and some of the opening statements. So that's why laying the foundation for all this stuff is really important as you get to the view. So now they get to go do this viewing with what they've already learned, focusing in on what the lawyers want them to focus in on, and see what comes from it.
we'll be all set. We'll see you at the bus in a little bit.
Very cool. Just very cool, very different. We learn something new every trial we watch together. There hasn't been that exact procedure in any of the trials we've watched or any of the trials I've done or jury views in any cases I've been involved with. So I thought that was kind of cool just to watch that together. And I want to know what you guys think about it in the comments section as well. So a short day of testimony today, just basically focusing on one witness and the jury view. But I thought it was cool. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our page. Hit the reminder bell because we're going to continue to follow this case, even with the weird court schedule and everything else going on. But I've really enjoyed getting to hear and see what you guys have thought and said about this case. Until next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.